Hi guys, I'm Anna Uden. I'm a doctor of clinical psychology and a fiction author, and we need to talk about what's happening with the movie It Ends With Us. Now, everything that I've learned about this movie and about the book that it is inspired by has been against my will. And I wasn't planning on making this video, but I've been increasingly concerned with the turn that this discourse has been taking. Just to give you guys a brief summary of the situation, if you haven't heard about this as much as I have, which I envy you for, there is a book, It Ends With Us, written by Colleen Hoover, which is being turned into a movie with Blake Lively, directed by Justin Baldoni. Now, this is all very speculative, but recently people have noticed some possible tension between Justin Baldoni and the rest of the cast. It looks like a lot of them aren't following him anymore, but nothing is clear in terms of what's actually happened. But ever since the cast have been doing like a press tour for the movie, people have been starting to speculate that the reason behind the rift is that Justin Baldoni had a different take on the intimate partner violence present in It Ends With Us than some of the other cast. For instance, people are pointing out how Blake Lively has not so great answers in response to the questions about IPV.
A lot of survivors of generational trauma and domestic abuse are going to see this film. I'm curious, what is the message that you hope that they take away from it?
I think that you are so much, and not to minimize it anyway, but you are so much more than just a survivor or just a victim. Well, that is a huge thing. You are a person of multitudes, and what someone has done to you doesn't define you. You define you, and what you have in you and what you're capable of and what you have done and are doing and will do is so much bigger than anything anyone else can do to you. And I think that that is... that feels like is so empowering and rooting and grounding, and I hope that people see that, because this is a story that covers domestic violence, but it's not about domestic violence, it's about this woman.
This movie is going to affect people, and they're going to want to tell you about their lives. So if someone understands the themes of this movie, comes across you in public, and they want to really talk to you, what's the best way for them to be able to talk to you about this? How would you recommend they go about it?
Like asking for like my address or my phone number or like my location share, or I could just location share you.
Some of her interview answers seem to suggest she thinks this movie is just light, because she mentions like grab your girls, grab your florals.
Now, so grab your friends, wear your florals, and head out to see it.
Lily Bloom is, oh, look at me in flowers, Lily Bloom.
Because she's talking a lot about her fashion.
So it is Britney's actual dress.
It's her actual dress.
Yes. I know, it's like,
just in time for the bio.
it should be in the Smithsonian or the Met,
I know,
but
how
it's
do you
on me.
Bringing up her hair care line, bringing up her husband's movie Deadpool, and just giving kind of surface level answers about IPV. And since people have noticed this, there have also been old interviews that resurfaced showing Blake Lively being what looks to be like not the most respectful.
So do you feel free now to try everything? I mean, what is the next 5 years of, well, in terms of trying, I mean, do you
see the movie?
I did see the movie. But I mean,
We're gonna give you a pop quiz.
there can be a pop quiz every minute of it.
Yeah.
So congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
You've got two nice ones.
They are kind of bumps, aren't they?
Talk about the clothes, but I wonder if they would ask the men about the clothes.
Suits and
That's what I'm saying. His wardrobe was beautiful.
I know,
Corey's
everybody.
wardrobe
I
was
know,
gorgeous.
he's
Those
so
high-waisted pants.
He's so great.
I wish men
And
wore
sorry,
high-waisted pants
too.
like
I
that
know.
still.
Me too.
And for some reason, my For You page on TikTok has been like 99% people hating on Blake Lively and idealizing Justin Baldoni. We see Justin Baldoni's responses about IPV in turn looking very mature. He seems to have all the right things to say about it.
They are absolutely entitled to that opinion, and it makes perfect sense as to why they would feel that way.
Now, I gotta be honest with you. I'm a writer, I'm a book talker, and so I'm not altogether surprised by the controversy surrounding this movie. And the reason for that is that I think a lot of it comes down to the controversy around the book itself. Colleen Hoover's book, It Ends With Us, is a romance book about IPV. A romance book featuring abuse. And while Justin Baldoni's explanation of how you're supposed to see it as a romance at first because you're supposed to see it through Lily's eyes certainly makes sense. You know, abusers are not all bad, at least in the beginning, and we're supposed to see how hard it is for somebody to step away from those situations. So when he puts it that way, it makes sense. However, I do think there's something a little bit inappropriate about framing something as a romance when really it should be a drama. It blurs the lines a little bit between romance and abuse, and people who maybe don't have as strong of an understanding of intimate partner violence might not grasp what the book is trying to accomplish. Now, I haven't personally read the book because I don't enjoy books that are written at a 3rd grade reading level. And look, that's not to diss anyone that liked the book. There are some people that like a little bit more bare bones writing, and that's totally fine. It's just not for me. I find that it makes me a worse writer, a worse speaker, so I don't like to consume that type of content. However, I have tried it. I have read excerpts, I've read synopsis, I've heard other people talk about what the book contains, and I gotta tell you, I don't altogether blame Blake Lively for not understanding the underlying message of the book. Colleen has a pattern of incorporating abusive dynamics into romance books in ways where it's not clear whether we're meant to root for the abusive couple or if she's just trying to raise awareness about abuse. And considering there have also been some allegations against her son, which she didn't handle too well, I'm really not so sure that Colleen Hoover is very responsible about the way she approaches this topic. So it kind of makes sense to me why Blake Lively took away what she did from the movie, especially considering reports show that Colleen Hoover likes Blake Lively just fine. But I'm very concerned about the turn that this discourse has taken, and let me explain why. The way people are literally foaming at the mouth to vilify a woman who on paper hasn't done anything wrong. She's committed no crime. She's done some faux pas in interviews. She's been maybe a little bit rude to reporters. We'll get into that in a second. But the way people are treating her is commensurate with something a lot worse. And I'm hearing a lot of people say like, oh, I guess Blake Lively's in her J-Lo era, or we have the new J-Lo, which to me is a very clear example of the way the media likes to jump from vilifying one woman and then moving on to the next. I've also heard the controversy surrounding this movie be compared to the controversy around Don't Worry Darling, which was directed by Olivia Wilde. She also got a similar amount of vitriol for what seemed to be not much, just like cast drama. And at this point, I'm pretty convinced that the media just needs like a woman to latch onto to hate and devalue and vilify and tear down that viewers can cathartically displace all their anger onto. Because I've made videos before about how very strong feelings, strong negative feelings towards celebrities are usually born of displacement and projection. Either a person really strongly hates in this person what they cannot accept about themselves, meaning projection, or they're displacing their feelings of anger that they have towards somebody else in their life onto this celebrity. For example, take a look at this comment about Blake Lively. I was once a Blake Lively fan, but this just brought me back to younger days remembering Mean Girls and totally excluding someone. This person has quite literally stated that Blake Lively's behavior reminds them of their own experiences from childhood. That is a clear-cut admission of displacement of anger. Blake Lively has done nothing to this person. This person has never met Blake Lively. They are displacing their feelings of anger that they have towards somebody in their real life onto a public figure because it's so easy to. And look, Blake's comportment in that interview did make me uncomfortable. It did seem a little bit mean girl to me. But the truth is that we don't know what was going on. Okay, we don't know, maybe it's social anxiety. She just always puts her foot in her mouth. I noticed, for instance, she kept turning to her co-star, which I know sometimes happens in my life when I'm feeling socially anxious. You turn to the person who's like your safe haven in the interaction. My husband and I will sometimes do this when we're communicating in a language in which we're not super comfortable. We'll sometimes look at each other while talking to a third party. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. Is it social anxiety? Is it her being a mean girl? None of us know. I've also heard that she might have been upset from the jump because she had set a boundary beforehand that the interview wasn't supposed to touch on the fact that she was pregnant. So I don't know if maybe that's what upset her. Again, I don't know because I don't know this person. I don't know the situation and what all parties involved were thinking. You know, I tend to think that I'm a pretty good judge of character in real life. And I, obviously, as a doctor of psychology, would hope that I'm attuned to the ways that media and people manipulate us and to my own defenses and the way that they can be weaponized by media. But none of us are immune to the manipulation of the media. I recently realized just how intense this is because my cousin was telling me about a public figure who he thought was funny. And this is somebody that's been kind of vilified by a sector of the media in recent weeks. And I was telling him like, oh my God, like, how do you like this guy? Like, that's terrible. He's a horrible human being. And to prove my point, I was like, you know what? Let's watch this guy. Let's watch some of his stuff right now. We watched about 20 minutes compilation from different sources. At the end of those 20 minutes, I realized that I was wrong. I realized that the media had manipulated me into disliking someone who I had never actually heard speaking through his own words. And I realized that he wasn't actually saying anything that bad. And it was just such a strong reminder to not have strong opinions on people you don't know. You don't know what's going on. You don't know if somebody is spinning the story behind the scenes. You don't know if they experience social anxiety. You don't know if there was some disrespect before the interview started. You just don't know what's going on in a situation. And it is so easy for narratives to be spun and for us to be manipulated by the very first thing that we hear or the thing that we want to hear. And I've also been seeing a lot of splitting.
I was actually a huge fan of Blake. I thought she was the perfect woman, believe it or not. Listening to her interviews in the past, she always gave authenticity and intelligence and kindness, I thought. But it really goes to show you that people could fake it, but they can only fake it for so long.
Splitting is when you idealize one person and devalue another. So in this case, Blake Lively is taking the brunt of the devaluation and Justin Baldoni is really being idealized. And look, like I said, his answers are great. He seems very respectful, very put together. He seems like a great guy, but I don't know him. I can't say that for sure. I wouldn't be particularly surprised if 10 years from now something came out about him showing that this was all just fake, because you do not know this person. We need to stop with the parasocial relationships and thinking that we know somebody just because we've seen them through a screen. And honestly, the most concerning part about all of this is how people are commenting on these videos of Blake Lively, saying like, oh, people are getting wiser, we're smartening up, now we can't be manipulated by PR spins anymore, we're more media literate. Because to me, the way that this has been approached has shown me how incredibly media illiterate people still are. How are you being media literate for hating on somebody that you've never met? How are you going to claim that that's not you being brainwashed by the media? And look, I don't know how nobody has considered this as a possibility, but I see it as a very real possibility that this is all actually just PR. It's just meant to cause a stir, to bring more attention to the movie so that the tickets sell better. We live in an era where rage bait marketing really works. Any attention is good attention. Any press is good press. Bad press is also good press. So I would really not be surprised if this was all planned behind the scenes. If people said, you know what, to bring more attention to this movie, why don't we all just unfollow Justin Baldoni and see what happens? And then when the woman in the situation gets thrown under the bus, it catches a lot of momentum. Maybe they saw how well this worked for Don't Worry Darling, so they decided to replicate a similar situation. Maybe there's drama behind the scenes, maybe Blake Lively's to blame, maybe Justin Baldoni's to blame, maybe they're both to blame, maybe there's nothing going on. Maybe we're just reading into it. The point is that we know very little. Very little has factually happened, and no crime has been committed except for one person giving superficial answers and seeming catty in interviews. And Colleen Hoover's writing, we have got to stop drawing such strong conclusions about people we've never met. Anytime you feel a really strong, powerful emotion towards somebody that you don't know, that's a sign to look inward. That is a sign that you are getting triggered about something that needs your attention. Are you displacing feelings that you have towards somebody else? Are you projecting your own shit? Are you splitting by idealizing one person and devaluing another? Or splitting by devaluing one woman and then hopping on to the next one to devalue? It's a sign to look inward. It's a sign to look at what got triggered within you. And look, even if all these terrible things about Blake Lively are true, I think that we could maybe put ourselves in her shoes for just a split second, practice a little bit of empathy, even if she doesn't have any to spare, you know? Let's us practice the empathy even if she is a terrible person. And consider the ramifications of what it would do to a person to receive this amount of hate from people during a time in their life when it's supposed to be super joyful and things are supposed to be going well. I don't know about you, but I personally don't know how I'd survive that. All right, peace.